Every time I watch hockey, I am reminded of the fact that I always think I should watch more hockey. I don't know how to fix this for myself. It's my own problem. I see a sport, I think that's fun. I enjoy this every time. Can I find more of this? Do they have like a national league of this sport that I could tune into? And then I forget for 2 to 4 years that hockey's awesome. And then I say this again 2 to 4 years later. Welcome into Everything Else. I'm Joshua Brisco. It's Everything Else with Joshua Brisco. Thank goodness, because it's just me here today as the one and only Tucker D. Franklin and Nick Springer. They're both going to the combine right now. We can do another loop of the music. That's fine. I was really actually feeling extremely good about my ability to run this show solo today, and it stands. I like the music. And I can now realize that the loop track button was clicked, which I didn't realize. As I was explaining in perfect timing, it's just me here today, so the graphics, when those change, just know how hard I'm working. When you say something in the comments, know that I really appreciate it, and that I will try to get to them as efficiently as I can. As Alex says, I'm looking forward to learning what really matters. It has the potential to be deeply philosophical. Boy, I tell you what, do not tempt me with a good time. Gary is here with the second like. Appreciate it, Gary. Mango says, I've got this. Thank you, Mango. It's the encouragement that I needed. I've done this a couple of times now, and again, I could not be happier for the reason that this is occurring. The fact that Tucker and Nick are both in the caravan on the way to the NFL Combine right now. We're going to talk about the Combine a good amount today, but partially because you're going to see a ton about it. It's going to be a very present news cycle factor in your periphery. Most of what you hear about won't really matter. Some of it might be. Some of it might be relevant to number 9, might be relevant to where the Chiefs go. We'll get to all that as the show goes on. So thanks for joining along. Leave a like on the video. If you haven't already, you can, of course, subscribe to the audio version of Everything Else, wherever you get your podcasts. And as we're going to talk about some multimedia roundup stuff later on today, all the links for everything that I talk about, links, not leaks like the vegetable, links like you can click on to go to places, those all go in the post-show Substack, which you can find at jbbrisco.com. Okay, so David says the Blues are just a few hours away. You got a hockey team to root for. And Megan says, I felt like I should adopt an NHL team last year and settle on the Devils since they used to be the Kansas City Scouts. I don't think I knew that the Scouts turned into the Devils, which is terrifying for our dog named Scout. Renee and I both have some Kansas City Scouts merch because Scout, the dog, and Kansas City, the city we live in. I had 2 NHL teams that were relevant to my interests. It was the Phoenix, then Arizona, then no longer existing Coyotes. I've got my second tier sports fandoms are all Arizona based because my grandparents moved there when I was little. So that's why I'm a Phoenix Suns fan. Well, I was a Coyotes fan, very casually, obviously, and then they moved to Utah. So jersey's still excellent. Big fan of the sweater, I should say. Not playing NHL hockey. But then my family, my parents and brother and sister moved to Tampa. So then I've been to a couple of Lightning games and had tremendous times there. So what I was actually texting my brother about during the Olympics was like, man, I might just have to figure out how to get some Lightning games and just let them be my team. I know they've been very successful, and so that's a little bit, jumping to the front of the line. I have a little miniature Tampa Bay Lightning Stanley Cup Champions miniature hockey puck on a shelf over here that we got at one of the games we went to. Just a tremendous sport. Alex says Caitlin and I chose the Seattle Kraken. They just showed up with perfect branding. I love that as well. Mango, I'm going to go ahead and put your Combine question. And if you drop any Combine questions into the chat, I'm going to star those on my end throughout the show today. So when we get to there, I do want to answer some of those. That's a good one that I've wondered the same, Mango. So we'll unpack that as we go. Real quick, kind of final thing on this Olympic cycle, because I hope, and I assume many of you watched the men's gold medal game. I don't know when the women's game happened. I just know that I missed it. And then I saw the highlights and the overtime golden goal, and I went, wait a second, I hate that I missed that. So Saturday morning, I don't even know what time the men's game started, but I woke up and I saw on my phone they were in the second period, and I was like, well, okay, hold on, I get coffee and sports. I love coffee and sports. It's a wonderful genre of AM sporting events. I really enjoy that, but I totally missed it for the women's game. Was theirs on a weekday? Maybe I don't know. I missed it. But getting to the TV just in time, basically, a little before Canada scored the equalizer. It was just, at that point, buckling in for gold medal Olympic hockey, which is a delight. Then Jack Hughes scoring, not to accuse someone in French, but Jack Hughes scoring the gold-winning golden goal in overtime with less than an ideal number of teeth. Oh, that's hockey. That's the hockeyest anybody's been in an incredibly long time. He takes a stick to the face, he looks on the ice, there's tooth fragments down there, he's bleeding out of his mouth, and he's the hero to score the goal, to clinch the gold over Canada in overtime. It was amazing. The hockeyest thing I've ever seen. And then pretty much everything in the post game, with the Team USA entire crew, the entire team rallying around the Goudreau jersey and not just bringing that out for the team photo, because they've been talking about that. I think one of the guys skated around. Goudreau brothers were both killed by the drunk driver. I think it was the morning of their sister's wedding. They kept showing his parents who were in the stands for the gold medal game. I mean, just like, I don't know, just like the saddest story you can build ends up having one of the most memorable sporting event moments that I can remember. I mean, it obviously just happened this weekend, but I think it's going to have a really lasting impact. So that's all kind of a part of the post-game festivities. And then a couple of the guys skate off and pick up his kids and bring them out onto the ice with their dad's jersey for the team picture. Just a both heart-wrenching and kind of heartwarming moment in a way that obviously, you know, only extreme heartbreak can bring kind of those moments of then being able to elevate that person, their memory, bring their kids out and all of that. Just such a tightly wound ball of emotions there. Really well done by everybody. I posted about it on some socials, and Kyle Henning said, I said kudos to whoever's idea it was to go bring the kids out. And several people made it very clear, obviously, that these guys all played together and that Goudreau should have been on this team. But Kyle tweeted that Werenski was his best friend and basically the kid's uncle, that he, Larkin, and several others all played together for a long time in the development program. And there's another video where it looks like you can see Larkin pointing the kids out like across the ice kind of before coming together for the team picture. Just team effort to make that moment happen, but just unfathomably moving that way. So just, again, wire to wire, some awesome stuff from the Olympics this year. Could not have ended on a more kind of remarkable moment. And then we watched some of the closing ceremonies. I didn't see any of the opening ceremonies. I've just kind of not watched those. The last handful of Olympics, I think, just kind of passed me by. It really is a special thing, and I think maybe I'm just in sports all the time, and so when the Olympics come around, it's like, okay, that's an Olympic event that nobody needs me to talk about, or that this is a sporting event no one needs my opinion on right now, so I can just kind of push back a little bit and watch what I want to watch and skip what I don't care about. But man, just really hot take here for you. The Olympics, special. And it is, it is so quintessentially human. This is the monologue I gave to Renee on Saturday before she mysteriously had to leave and had to go do something else. But there is such a pure, competitive, human nature core to the Olympics. It's not just that it's all bathed in the flags and the civic pride for each of these countries. We've just been doing it for as long as human beings figured out, like, you know what would be fun? To run side by side and see who gets there faster. You know what we should do? Let's do that, and let's also have these guys throw a big stick. You know how we throw spears for fighting? What if we threw it for distance? I hope I always hold that soft spot for the Olympics. Sometimes I kind of forget that those Olympic sports do bring so much joy that way. I hope everyone enjoyed whatever they wanted to enjoy out of this Olympic cycle. And as Mango asks, where do I stand on curling? I have, every 4 years, I think, there's got to be a curling rink around here somewhere, right? I feel like I could be good at curling. I feel like I could at least have fun at curling. Just all delightful. In America, trolling is an Olympic sport. Very funny for the man who, the account who I will only refer to as Hugh Jazz, because I believe that was the display name many moons ago in a way that really saved an episode of Only Weird Games. Trolling is an Olympic sport, and I'll tell you what, we are gold medalists, like it or not. Okay, let's talk about a couple of slightly newsy things here. Andy Reid had a presser on Friday, right as this show was happening. Whoops, that happens sometimes. Not a ton of, so to speak, new news here. He likes the coaches that they hired. That seems good. The communication with Travis Kelce, ongoing. It really seems like he is on the path to coming back. Travis Kelce, that is. Nothing official there, though, obviously. Reid did say they talked to a lot of running backs coaches. I wonder what a lot means. Between McCullough and Staley, and then obviously hiring Murray. I know we had those three kind of in. Matt Derrick asked about those three in particular in his question, but I wonder if they talked to a lot more than that. Kind of interesting there. Nothing of note on Rashee Rice or Tyreek Hill. Not surprising. And then on the free agency plans and kind of the issues with only having so much salary cap space to work with and all of that, Andy Reid, I thought very fairly and as accurate as he needed to be, said regarding the NFL Combine, you hear things and people talk. He said it a couple times in a couple of different ways, that you hear things at the Combine, you listen and you keep your mouth shut, or you chat around and you learn some things. He mentioned, agents and GMs and everybody are out there. Obviously, there is a legal tampering period, and then there is the official opening of free agency. Well, this week is the unofficial opening of the illegal tampering period. You can't have any deals down. You can't have anything finished yet, although as soon as the tampering period opens, you're going to say, man, these contracts really came together quite quickly. What a miracle that happened. But very funny from who I will continue to call Hugh Jazz, that can't a guy mature? Jeez. That's really funny. That's part of what matters here at the Combine this week. Here's kind of also just something to keep in mind as the free agent stuff comes around. It sounds like, as of this morning, Alec Pierce and George Pickens are both apparently getting franchise tagged. So that's two more top wide receivers off of the market. Now, you might not have loved Alec Pierce, and the Chiefs were never going to get to George Pickens, but that now makes everybody else in the receiver market a little richer. It takes a little more money to get Romeo Doubs. It takes a little bit more money to get Wan'Dale Robinson. Those, Doubs and Robinson, are the only impact free agent wide receivers under age 27 right now on the kind of the listing that SpotTrack keeps of all those guys. Oh, Seamus says Kyle Pitts, and Scott says Kyle Pitts is getting tagged. Interesting. That's kind of a surprise, isn't it? I guess it makes sense because the tight end market, 1-year deal for a tight end of the top 5 value, I hadn't seen that one. I wonder when that happened. A little bit surprising, but I guess makes some sense. Also, Atlanta's in a whole new regime now, so are they going to try to get an asset out of Kyle Pitts? Do they say, hey, we want to keep you in the system with Stefanski for a year and see what comes around that way? Interesting. So yeah, curious about that one. Well, and then also on the Alec Pierce front, Colts tagging Alec Pierce makes it even more likely that Michael Pittman moves or gets moved. Could be a trade piece, could be a cut candidate as a cap casualty for them to be able to hold that money for Pierce and do the other things they need to do. They need to figure out what they're doing at quarterback, presumably with Daniel Jones. All that to say, keep an eye on the Michael Pittman thing. I think in terms of what the Chiefs need at wide receiver, I've been saying this in 2020, I'd be interested in seeing Michael Pittman on the Chiefs. We'll see how that comes around. Now, Ronson Trait in the chat kind of gets... This is kind of a joke and kind of a good take. Ron says, I thought drinks at Prime at 2 a.m. was the only Combine activity that mattered. Ron, you're closer than you think. In terms of what matters at the NFL Combine, very, very, very low on the list is the stuff that you can watch on TV. It will matter for some guys. It will change some draft boards. If you are a late day 3 wide receiver prospect and you run a blazing 40, your stock will rise. Because you go, oh, you know what? Okay, well, we didn't see this guy's production in college for whatever reason, but he's the fastest receiver on the board. That'll get him into late day 2 instead of late day 3. You'll see linemen who come in where their arm length is a big deal. But if Ruben Bain comes out and his arms measure at 4.5 inches each, the tape is still the tape. You can watch Ruben Bain T-Rex linemen to get to the quarterback day after day after day. So some things can change expectations. You can influence your stock as a player. But that stuff's not going to end up being top 5 in all likelihood, for most players at least, in terms of importance. The medicals are always huge, and this is obviously, both of these things are going to end up being things that led to Josh Simmons being available for the Chiefs at the end of the first round last year. The mentals and the medicals, the interviews and the doctors, that ends up being the thing that can solve some actual unknowns for teams right now. Maybe you've got a player who you really like, but like Andy Reid talked about this in his presser. I should also mention, Andy Reid did the presser Friday because he's not at the combine. He said he had a little knee surgery thing of some sort, short-term IR, he said. So Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid both dealing with knee injuries or knee surgeries and following rehabs. Scott says I'd pay $100 a night for a live stream of Nate at Prime. I don't think that's enough. I'd probably throw in another 100. I don't know if that's enough. We're really going to have to dig into that. But let's say, if the Chiefs are looking at, everyone's been aware of what's happened the last couple of weeks. Let's say you're looking at wide receiver, for example. Maybe you like Carnell Tate. Maybe you like Jordan Tyson. Maybe you like Mekhi Lemon. Maybe you like those other guys that might be in the range around the 40th overall pick. Maybe one of those guys has something you've heard about from his time in college, and you want to make sure you know who you'd be drafting. Now, obviously, you still have the visits and all the things to come after that. If you're in Josh Simmons' case, where you're also like a lot of the quote off the field stuff with Simmons didn't seem to get reported until after the draft. If you are looking at a guy who's coming off of a season-ending knee injury and you're wondering, can we select this guy at the end of the first round and have him be our left tackle of the future, that really hinges on what your training staff thinks. Really hinges on how those medicals come out. So again, you'll have him back in for individual visits and all of that throughout the process. And specifically this year, I do wonder if it'll be different. That's why I starred the question from Mango earlier, saying with Reed being absent, are Veach, Bieniemy, Spags doing player meetings this combine cycle? We have the area scouts throughout all of that. I'm guessing it's a combination in those rooms of scouts and coaches. Maybe it just varies from player to player. I don't know. Is Joe Cullen in on defensive line meetings? I assume that once you get, especially when you're picking at 9, and you're going to have a relatively short list of guys who could be available to you there, I assume that you kind of go through the phases of like, hey, meet with these coaches, and these scouts are the guys that brought you along here. So I am curious. I kind of hoped someone might ask about that to get that answer from Andy, actually. Maybe someone will ask Veach about it this week, because, again, it is kind of weird that Andy Reid's not at the Combine. So I'm sure there will be some differences there. Maybe Andy is going to be zooming in and joining virtually. He's not speaking at the Combine. I don't know what the rules there would be in terms of, like, other forms of contact. So it's an interesting question that I have wondered for myself, that I might have as many questions about as you do. All that to say, that's the kind of stuff that matters. It's what are teams getting? They're always horror stories, dating back to like Dez Bryant being asked crazy things about his mom. Sometimes teams are going in there and kind of stress testing you. Because look, like, they drafted Rashee Rice in the second round. I don't know what they found out in those meetings. A lot of times those meetings are testing your football acumen. Here's the play, here's your responsibility, walk me through it. We kind of see some of those types of things come out more from the individual visits. We sometimes will see teams release those like after they draft the player. Say, look at how much we nailed it. We knew we loved this guy back in February. Now we got him in April. This is going to be great. And then it's still a coin flip, because it's all a coin flip. But the off-the-field stuff matters. The football acumen stuff matters. And then obviously the medicals are huge. That's the main thing, in addition to the one time of the year that it might be worth paying attention to the rumor mill. There are a few times a year I guess that's worthwhile. I want to take a little moment of another crash course in not media literacy. I can't teach all that. A crash course in insider literacy, perhaps. Your Rappaports, your Schefters, your national guys for the most part. The local guys they have a different. I don't know. It feels less slimy. I don't know. The local beat writers are with the teams and around the people in a way where it's like if one of the local people tweets something about the Chiefs' interest, I'm just inclined to believe it. Maybe you can't take it at 100% face value, but I'm not playing the immediate like reverse engineering. How did we get this piece of news? If you see a tweet from Schefter, Rappaport, Jordan Schultz, hopefully everybody has a nice, cool combine this year. No need for fisticuffs. If you see a tweet and you go, that's interesting. The Chiefs are interested in running back X. Or, oh wow, Romeo Dobbs' market is going to be 40% more than anyone was expecting. Just remember to ask yourself the question. Who benefits from this information being out? Because, to my understanding at least, the national insiders are not flies on walls. They are not bugging meeting rooms. They don't have a cup up to the door so they can listen in and hear Brett Veach say to Steve Spagnuolo, I just don't think Ruben Bain's arms are long enough. That's not how they get information. They get information from relationships. I text all these agents. Sometimes the agents will be the ones to give me the scoop. I have good relationships with these teams. Sometimes the teams will be the one that gives me the scoop. Who benefits from information going out? Because by and large, non-beneficial information isn't being given to someone whose job is to launder and release that info. Because that's, I don't know, that might sound kind of negative. Maybe it is kind of negative. I don't really mean it that way. If a team wants to get something out, the team could always just fire up, at Browns and just say what they want to say. That we, the Cleveland Browns, we are interested in a first round wide receiver. They could just tweet that. It'd be crazy. It'd feel crazy. But why? That might not be true. They could just be saying that to try to shake up the board around them, make other people try to get ahead of them to draft a wide receiver. So you can say, Browns want a wide receiver. It would just be kind of weird form to say that publicly in a way that you're just showing the world your hand, even though you could be bluffing. You're telling the world what your cards are. But if Ian Rappaport says, the Browns are holding ace-king right now. Sources say Browns have ace-king. Suited, in fact. Oh, what a hand! Then you go, oh, that's curious. That's news. Who benefits from everyone thinking that the Browns have king ace? The Browns. All that to say, just try to track that as we go. I think most people who have followed my work or Only Weird Games where Nate's in the machine, right? I'm around the machine. Nate knows how the gears turn. I think most people probably following KCSN have a little bit of that. I just want you to build up that muscle memory through these next couple of weeks. And it's even funny, like, Veach's presser will be awesome because there have been so many years. Now, early on, Veach was it felt like he was so free-flowing with just like, yeah, here's what we're thinking, here's what we know, here's what we got, all of this. And I just remember the one year of him being like, yeah, we think Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher could be back by training camp. And everyone's like, that seems weird. And like an hour later, they were cut. I think Orlando Brown Jr. was the other one, right? It was like, yeah, we're really excited to use our pick at 28 or whatever. And then like hours later was the Orlando Brown Jr. trade. If I have my timelines on that correct. Veach has gotten much better much to my chagrin. Veach has gotten much more comfortable just saying the things that he needs to say to get through the pressers and whatnot, which is, to be clear, his job. I don't begrudge him that. I just wish he'd, text me what he really thinks. I wouldn't tell. I can keep a secret. Or you can tell me the information you want to get out, and then I'll be a hashtag insider, But just particularly with the national guys, keep that in mind. The local guys is kind of a different bag because, again, you feel like you at least have an idea of how tight that circle is. The corresponding NFL, The Shield news cycle just has a ton of moving parts. Let me see here if I can pull these wide receiver thoughts together here. Kanguru from Germany says, we can get a very good wide receiver day 2. Class is deep. Weston says, we got to get a wide receiver in the first round. Enough of this nonsense. When are you going to have a chance to getting a Carnell Tate in the draft again? You guys both are making the right arguments. Those are both good cases. That is why the wide receiver position now, again, especially just with everything up in the air. Here's the thing. I can't respond to the comment about Rashee Rice that we have there because I think that's wild. But regardless of like what happens in 2026, there is not a long-term future set for this wide receiver room. There's still plenty of time to make that happen. You could sign Romeo Doubs and draft Carnell Tate, and you are set for the next years to come. And then it'll be, Tate, Doubs, Worthy, Royals as your 4 guys in 2027, and you'll know they're on the roster. But as things stand right now, really hard to imagine Rashee Rice being on this team in 2027. And maybe things are way different by then, just as things stand right now. That's all we got. So I do think it's important to make sure you get at least one foundational wide receiver in that trajectory. The problem is that you'd like to have a defensive lineman who is maybe a click better than George Karlaftis and who is foundational beyond Chris Jones's peak. Ron says, I'm kind of highlighting all these receiver takes because I kind of agree and disagree with parts of all of them. Need a real alpha at wide receiver. Don't need to be like the Packers and have an entire room of wide receiver 2s. I kind of agree about an alpha wide receiver. I'd also really enjoy having a Packers room of wide receiver 2s. Both of those would work out if you had the Chiefs didn't have a bunch of wide receiver 2s last year. They haven't had a bunch of wide receiver 2s. They've had a bunch of elevate to this role. Well, if you hit your ceiling, if Travis Kelce's wide receiver 1, maybe Rashee Rice can become a wide receiver 1. He didn't. So I do think there's more than one way to build a more stable future at wide receiver. And this is kind of a dangerous way to play it. It's partially also about what your defensive line room looks like and who's available at 9 that way. Here's the other part of it that I'll keep in mind. You have to plan for both of these. Agree with Johnny. I mentioned this on Friday. Not just an alpha. We need a volume guy who's also reliable. Travis is leaving soon. That is true. No, and wide receiver doesn't always equal stable. That's also very fair. The volume thing is a very good point. Something that I think Matty Lane was on first from the lab. He mentioned a couple episodes ago that I think is just a really good point that we're going to keep talking about throughout the offseason. The volume pass catcher. That's why for me, like Alec Pierce doesn't move the needle a whole lot. I don't think Romeo Doubs moves the needle a whole lot. Epic in the chat mentions Kirk in free agency, maybe. Here's the thing. Christian Kirk is the style of receiver that would be helpful. I don't know if he's that guy now. The best version of him, absolutely. This version of him, kind of just another guy. That's why it's so hard. And also, why it's fun. There's like a little bit of angst in our comment section on the wide receiver topic today, and I hope it's coming from a point of all of us just being kind of angsty, wanting the Chiefs to end up with a good wide receiver room, but it's also what makes it kind of fun. It's the same stuff that makes it frustrating and stressful. If, let's say all the defensive linemen are available at 9, or at least the Chiefs' favorite defensive lineman is available at 9. Maybe that's Bain, maybe that's Bailey, maybe it's somebody else. But if they love Ruben Bain, and if Spags is like, I don't care how long his arms are, this dude's a dog, he and Karlaftis and Jones and then Gelati and Omar as depth pieces, that's going to be a nightmare to try to stop as an offense. Give me Ruben Bain Jr. or give me death. Signed, Steve Spagnuolo. I'll say this, if Tate and Lemon are gone and Bain's there at 9, I'm taking Ruben Bain. Tyson's very interesting. It seems like everyone's a little skittish about the injury stuff, and we're talking about styles. Maybe he's kind of the third in that group of Tate, Lemon, and Tyson for what the Chiefs would use. I could be moved on that. Someone made a really strong Jordan Tyson case, I'd listen. But if you told me that Tate and Lemon went earlier than expected and Bain is there at 9, I am taking Ruben Bain, and you got to figure out receiver at 40. If Bain and Bailey are both gone and all the receivers are there and a receiver hasn't gone by 9, take your favorite receiver and then figure it out. And the Chiefs just have to, and they of course will, they already do, they have to have plans for all of those situations. And that's the good news, that's the silver lining of picking 9 overall. There are a lot of ways to end up with a good draft when you have a top 10 pick. You just probably have to go receiver and defensive line with your first 2 picks at this point. That's tough, but there should be pockets there in both ranges where my inclination 2 weeks ago was D-line at 9, receiver at 40. My inclination a month ago was receiver at 9, D-line at 40. My inclination today is probably receiver at 9, D-line at 40. I'm flip-flopping because the circumstances keep changing. Free agency will also change that. That's the thing to just sort of take the deep breath for. Today is February 23rd. Those cards are not being submitted right now. Build your plan, come up with the guys you like. But after free agency comes around, if the Chiefs spend a lot of money on... That's the funny thing. I don't think Mike Evans necessarily fixes this. At least not beyond this year. If they spend a lot of money on their defensive line, if it's Boye Mafe and pick your defensive tackle, and maybe they sign safety, or maybe it's just bringing back Brian Cook, and if they spend a lot of money in the defense in free agency, I'm going to go back to receiver at 9. I assume. Because, okay, they've gotten to reasonable and playable on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe that'll be enough. If they sign, we don't know if he's going to get tagged or not. If they sign Breece Hall and Romeo Doubs, and the defensive line doesn't get any real addition, it's probably D-line at 9. So that's the kind of thing that, again, you're gonna start hearing those whispers through Combine Week here. That's the stuff that I care about more than I care about anybody's 40 when anybody comes in. Again, there will be movement on arm length and height and weight and speed and all of those things. That will, think of that as jostling your spot, though. It's hard for me to imagine somebody really rocketing up or down the draft board purely on those measurable things. I'm sure it's happened in a few instances, but the stuff that really tanks your value is, ooh, we don't know if we can trust this guy. This guy's not on our board for either medical or mental reasons. That's what the Combine kicks off. Plus, it's nice to have the standardized measuring. I enjoy that. I always like the math bomb. I think it's Kent Lee Platt. I think I have his name right. That does the RAS scores and all of that stuff. I enjoy seeing all of that standardized out, and you go, oh, wow, Carnell Tate was faster than I thought he'd be. Or the other side of the coin, well, he plays faster than he does running in his underwear on turf. I'll take the guy whose tape reflects what he looks like there. So that's all keeping what you need to keep an eye on that way. Johnny has a good comment here that I'll kind of use as a jumping off point, and then I got a couple other things to tell you about, plus just some fun nonsense. Johnny says, it's also probably a multi-year thing. It ain't getting all fixed this year. We just have to get 15 some help. Cannot rerun the last few years with his weapons. I think Tucker and I might have mentioned this Friday, Monday. I don't know. The shows run together. Maybe it was on Weird Games. I don't know. I want to bring it up again because it's a good thought. Getting the roster healthy and strong, where your roster is a strength top to bottom, I agree that's probably a multi-year process. You need 2 good drafts and 2 good free agency periods in a row. You don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be flawless, but it's probably 2 years to do all of that. You have a little bit of degradation because you were keeping the band together and keeping your foot on the gas to win back-to-back Super Bowls and get to a third. Man, that's a deal that every single one of us should be thrilled to have made 100 times out of 100. But now it's time to, the word that I've been using here is remodel. You're not rebuilding, you're doing more than reloading though. You're remodeling a few rooms in the house. The running back room, the wide receiver room, the defensive line room. You're remodeling. Your offensive line room, that's great. Do not touch the basement. Offensive line is strong. Quarterback, well, there's no one in the quarterback room right now. I just Chris Ovidokin playing video games. Like, well, hold on, man. But so here's the good news, because I think you could hear that and be kind of a pessimist. Oh man, the Chiefs are 2 years away from contending. That's not what I said. It's not what Johnny said either. That's not the angle. They're not 2 years away from contending. They're probably 2 years away from getting the roster where they want it to be. You can have a... What do you think? Give me a letter grade here and tell me if you think you're with me. You can have a B- roster and win a Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes. I was kicking between B- and C+. You can have a C- defense and a B+ offense and win a Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes. So that to me, I really like that comment, and I really like keeping that theory in mind. The Chiefs have multi-year goals in terms of overall roster health and team construction for the next era of Patrick Mahomes. But he has won Super Bowls and certainly gotten to the Super Bowls he's lost with huge deficiencies in the roster in different places. Lots of the Tampa and Philly Super Bowl losses both came with significant injury holes. That's not something I'm mad at Brett Veach about. I'm not mad at Brett Veach about the 2020, or was it in 2021, I guess, the Tampa Super Bowl. That's not his fault. They were on their 7th through 12th lineman, I think. That's an exaggeration, but barely. You can overcome a lot. Patrick Mahomes is a hell of an air freshener, a hell of a makeup, whatever covers the blemishes. Mahomes is the best at that. But as Casey says here in the chat, hi Josh, nothing matters. Let's take a break. Before I get to just some stone cold nonsense, the multimedia roundup that I've been meaning to get to here for more than a month now. I got a bunch of movies, a bunch of video games. I got some music to talk about. We're going to have a nice time here in the second half. But first, I'm going to tell you about a way you can make your pets beautiful and have them immortalized in art forever. You see this? You see this? I had it. I was going to upload the graphic, and the graphic was too big. I'm sorry. I failed on that front. You can get your pet beautifully immortalized in art that will hold your heart for decades. Hi. My name is Joshua Brisco, and I'm here to tell you about Renaissance Art's pet commissions, which you can have right now. Well, you can't get it right now. You can order it right now, and then you get it later, because that's how people make art. You probably understand this. Here's what's going on. Right now, you can go to renaissance.art/workwithme, and you can work with Renee, who has made so many incredible pet commissions over the last year or so. And if you would like to get your furry friend, or scaly friend, fishy friend, I think any type of beloved animal is fair game, unless there's one I'm not thinking of that Renee would simply refuse to do a commission of. Can't imagine it now, but I'll think. Dog, cat, fish, gecko, lizard, lion. Don't have a pet lion. They are all available to be turned into beautiful art by Renee at her website. You can go to bit.ly/EEPetSpecial if you don't want to spell Renaissance. bit.ly/EEPetSpecial. And you can order the special that Renee is running right now. 9x12 pet portrait commissions are only $150. Hold on, that can't be. Renee, that's not enough! Renee, I need you to charge more for this, please! I don't think she can hear me. Okay, so it's not going to change yet. So if you go ahead and hop in now, it's before I demand that these prices are raised. $150 for a portrait with a white background, including the consultation, the packaging and shipping, and a high-res digital image. You can communicate with Renee throughout this process to make sure you are thrilled with the commission of your pet. You can also have optional add-ons, including a full-color background, turning your pet into a sticker, bookmark, notebook, cards. You can also get other sizing options. This special is just specific to the 9x12 pet commissions. They make an incredible gift, a great way to celebrate a beloved pet. Maybe you want to remember a pet from your past, or again, celebrate the life of a pet who you've lost recently. Or, I gotta tell you, I can see multiple pieces of art around Scout and Hopper in my room right now. I also have one on my leg. It's a tattoo. I can't show you right now. I'm wearing long pants. But it is just such a delightful thing to be able to celebrate your pets that way. And again, it makes an incredible gift for someone who you want to help give that gift of remembering or enjoying their furry friend or fishy friend, scaly friend. I've covered this. You can mention hearing about the promotion on Everything Else and get a free Everything Else possum sticker in your packaged portrait. I usually show one right now. I don't have any more. All the first run of those have been printed and cut and shipped off. So thank you to everyone who has been enjoying Renee's art and renaissance.art for all of their fantastical animal needs. It's been very, very cool to see how many people have enjoyed that from this show. So mention Everything Else when you sign up. You get the free sticker. Check it out at bit.ly/EEPetSpecial. Okay, I'm going to talk about a bunch of non-Chiefs related things here. This is your official warning. If you are here for very serious Combine talk or Olympics talk, that was earlier. Well, hold on. Sorry. Now I need to read the comments. A bunch of comments came in. Kangaroo says, remember the time winning a Super Bowl with the guys like Sorensen, Neiman, Fenton, and Watts getting significant playing time? Feels like a different life. It really does. Steven asks, Charizard? Probably. Megan says, Renee hates money. True it is. Ron, no squirrels? That's not what I said! You can have a furry squirrel friend. I wouldn't have a squirrel as a pet. Probably. But I like our outdoor squirrels. If you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to speak for Renee on this one. If you say, hi, if you said, hi, Renee, so this isn't a pet necessarily, but I have a squirrel in my backyard who I love very much, and I've named him Jimothy. And I can't have him inside because he's a wild squirrel. But I would love a portrait of Jimothy, my backyard squirrel. Here's a photo of this very special squirrel. Not only would Renee paint that, I think she would be thrilled to hear from you. That's the kind of whimsicality that we need in our world right now. that's acceptable. She's painted mini squirrels already, to be clear, just not specifically as a commission, I don't think. Mizzou says, timely plug for Renee's art because a possum turned up dead in my yard yesterday. No, it's not playing positive. Thought of you immediately, Josh. He'll be getting a final send-off to a landfill today. Thank you. Thank you, Mizzou19, for giving him a respectful send-off. Kangaroo says, can the squirrel play wide receiver? I do really enjoy you all being here for what this show is. I wish the possum was alive from Mizzou 19 story there, but I do love where the chat goes when we talk about yard critters and whatnot. So you can also still sign up for the Snail Mail Art Club, but that's, we'll talk about that for March. Although March is just around the corner if you want to get signed up. I don't know. Think about it. Let me tell you my hottest media takes of 2026. I've got a few. Let's start on the video games front, because one of these is very newsy right now. I mentioned this a week or two ago. I started playing Mugenics. And you say, Josh, you're playing what? And I say it's a game about cats, okay? M-E-W, Genix. It's a turn-based combat game. One of the creators is the creator of The Binding of Isaac, a game that I am aware of but never really got into. This is a turn-based combat game, turn-based strategy game, where you have 4 little cats. You take on your runs. You got to beat all these enemies. It's got an amazing soundtrack and so many layers to it. It's excellent if you like turn-based combat. There's also the entire element, as the title refers to, of breeding cats and having their different battle traits passed down, what their abilities are and whatnot. Well, if these two cats with these 2 mutations, if they make a kitten, what happens to your team? It's been very, very fun. I've put in a good number of hours. I have not gotten to the end of much. Well, that's not true. I don't want to spoil anything. I've beaten several aspects of the game all the way through. I've not rolled credits or anything, and it seems like there is a lot of depth still to come. Very, very fun. Lucky Tom says in the chat, tasty legs and crispy thighs. If you've played the game, you're hearing a song in your head now. If you haven't played the game, you're wondering what's happening. Tasty legs and crispy thighs. If you want to be the king of cats, chasing rats, Mugenics, excellent game, very fun turn-based combat. I guess it was Saturday, Renee and I started playing The Return of the Obra Dinn. This game has been out for quite a while. It is a mystery. It's a mystery game. It's all black and white pixel art. I've never seen anything quite like it, other than some very old school computer art. The premise is that you are on a ship that has, I believe, you are to assume, the 50-some souls on board have perished. Something weird has happened. You discover bodies on the ship, and you can go back in time a little bit and just get the scene right before that character's death. And then you get a little bit of information, and you've got to figure out, okay, this is the body of this name who was killed this way, who met this fate from this person. It's very fun. It's very interesting. It's also very different than another puzzle game that we loved, Blueprints. I don't know if I've ever talked about Blueprints on this show. Might have been my game of the year last year. Really stupendous. Obra Dinn's doing a storytelling thing, and it takes its own notes for you. Blueprints, I literally have a notebook full of notes from. Obra Dinn, it's helping you take the notes. Alec, I didn't know you'd played Obra Dinn. I might have to text you a couple of questions later, because we got to the end of the detail collection aspect of it, and still have quite a bit to go. So it's kind of a deduction game that way. Very fun and very cool. That one we're playing on the Switch. As Johnny asked what platforms here. I'm playing Mugenics on the Steam Deck. Runs great. Sometimes you'd wish you just had the mouse, I'm sure, but none of my... I know I'm streaming this show on a desktop computer every day. None of my computers can run any of these games. So the Steam Deck for Mugenics has been excellent there. And Obra Dinn we played on Switch just so we could dock it and put it on the TV. So that's excellent. The other game that came out somewhat recently is a huge DLC for Cult of the Lamb. The DLC is called Woolhaven. If you haven't played Cult of the Lamb, it is a half roguelike dungeon battler kind of thing. You go through stages and beat all the enemies, and you swing your sword and cast your spells and climb through the different little sub-levels. Get the boss, beat the boss, all of that. Very similar to Hades, right, in terms of like the battle structure there. But when you get back to your cult, your home base, then it's just this huge camp management kind of deal. All little cutesy critters that often die horrible deaths, and you can sacrifice your followers and turn them into food, or you can give them a special necklace that will let them live forever and be immortal. Cult of the Lamb ended up, I didn't necessarily expect it from minute one. Cult of the Lamb has ended up being one of my favorite games of all time. It is such a wonderful game to open up and just go, you know what? I'm gonna go fight for a little while because I want to do a little bit of combat, or I'm gonna spend 2 straight hours in the cult management side and just enjoy all of that. It's one of the reasons that I ended up bouncing off of Hades 2 a little bit, although I do want to go back to that. I loved Hades, and Hades 2 is excellent, but and also this is a little bit of a slight problem for me personally with Mugenics. Eventually, you've got to go back out into the world and battle. And I really enjoy a Stardew Valley-esque kind of farm management aspect of it all. So Cult of the Lamb really just kind of lets you spend as much time in either side of the game as you want to spend for the most part. It's really excellent. So the only problems with Woolhaven, the DLC on Switch, a little bit buggy, and I started it on my longest running cult where I'd beaten everything else from all of the other DLCs, or almost everything else from all the other DLCs. I was a little bit overpowered, so it wasn't necessarily super challenging, and the Switch version of the DLC was a little bit buggy. Had a few things that, like, if you haven't picked it up, you're like, oh man, I missed it. Nope, your timing is great. And if you've never played Cult of the Lamb, there are several DLC packs that are all very good. I just kind of got the game early on and have gotten the DLC as it came out. Really rewarding, really excellent game. I love that. Okay, I'm gonna bring my movie take. I'm gonna bring the movie take now. I'm a little bit afraid. I have the hottest, most countercultural movie take I've maybe ever had. And I'm also not as far out on a limb as Renee is. She was even more unenthusiastic. I really thought, not only think I was going to like, I thought I was going to love One Battle After Another. That's fine. It's a movie for sure. I'll tell you what, say what you want. It's definitely a movie. But it has gotten such effusive praise from so many people whose opinions I respect deeply about movies. Very lukewarm. I felt better, but not incredibly different about another movie that I thought I was going to love. Marty Supreme. I enjoyed Marty Supreme more than One Battle After Another. I was a little bit disappointed in both. Just a little bit underwhelmed. The day after Renee and I watched Marty Supreme, I watched Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler, same directors as Marty Supreme. It's the same movie, which is okay. I don't love the genre. I guess I don't love the genre of sort of the fast-talking, deeply addicted and unhealthy, quick on their feet little scam artist kind of guy. And Uncut Gems is that. Marty Supreme is that. One Battle After Another is that in some ways. They're all extremely well acted. All excellent acting performances in all three of those movies. Totally understand. Ron, you are on my track right here now. I am coming to this comment here in a second. I totally understand why Timothée Chalamet, who I think is also a producer on Marty Supreme, totally understand why he went into like an almost method promotional run for the movie. I understand why he was like, I think I got something here. I think this is my like star, and obviously Timothée Chalamet is already a star in every aspect. But he does the Dune stuff, elevates your stardom, and you're doing the big sci-fi thing. I'm going to go be a character. I'm going to be a memorable, iconic character. I'm going to go be Marty Supreme. I completely understand why Chalamet felt like he left it all out on the floor there. He did. And Marty Supreme was a pretty good sports movie. The table tennis scenes in Marty Supreme are really fun. Uncut Gems is never that fun. I think that's maybe a click down from Marty Supreme for me. Sandler's great, by the way. Sandler in Uncut Gems, a movie that came out 7 years ago. You probably know that now. Sandler is great in Uncut Gems. The only surprising thing that happens in Uncut Gems happens at the very end of the movie. One thing I went, oh! Okay, you know what? One real surprise. I think Marty Supreme ends up in a good place in terms of... I don't want to spoil anything. It's still a relatively fresh movie. Scott says, Timothée Chalamet, the rapper? I like him, and I like how he did this. I'm coming back to Ron's comment about the promotional run for Marty Supreme in a second, too. Marty Supreme ends up, this is like, I'm not going to spoil anything, I don't think. I think we're clear. Marty Supreme ends up giving the character, Marty Supreme, the proper ending, I think, that the character deserves. If that's, I don't think I'm spoiling anything. Tyler, the Creator, is great in Marty Supreme. Ron mentioning like all of the cameos and stuff in Uncut Gems. They're all very well acted. The like adrenaline rush movie thing I guess. Not my favorite type of movie. Here's the thing that I realized afterwards, though, that left me a little bit colder on Marty. Ronzentrate says, Marty Supreme's marketing and promo was way better than the actual production. Do you know what the Marty Supreme promo run was? It was weird. It was huge. That initial promo video where Timothée Chalamet is in an orange ping pong head in like the plexiglass box filled with the orange ping pong balls, and then he goes through that whole weird kind of artsy, kind of surreal scene with all these orange ping pong balls. I was like, oh, this is cool. Timothée Chalamet is doing a weird artsy ping pong, not necessarily artsy, but a kind of surreal ping pong. Is this going to be like a intellectual horror kind of thing? Like, what's happening in Marty Supreme? Marty Supreme is not supernatural in any way. There is not a surreal twist to it. It's a movie about a lunatic that wants to be the American face of ping pong. It's pretty good as that. I was left colder on one battle after another. Again, I think Renee's analysis of it is funnier, but one that I'm not willing to share on this podcast today, I don't think. But Renee had a note on it that stuck with me. In other news, other movies, real quick, that we've just watched in the last month or so. On Groundhog Day, we watched Groundhog Day, as we always do. A perfect movie. My favorite quote-unquote new movie that I've seen, my favorite movie that I've seen for the first time this month, or my favorite new-ish movie, Palm Springs. I think it was a Hulu. Let me check. Hold on. It came out in 2020. I didn't see it at the time, and I don't know. It didn't make a huge footprint. I think it's streaming on Hulu, which also means Disney Plus. I think it was a Hulu production, and it's Andy Samberg doing Groundhog Day, kind of. That's sort of the plot. That's all I want to give you. But we watched that on February 3rd, because I was like, well, it's another time loop movie. This seems kind of fun. And I had just watched Popstar Never Stopping earlier this year. It's like, you know what? I need to let Andy Samberg have his space here. I thought Palm Springs was excellent. It's not a 5-star movie. It's a good 4-star movie. I've thought about it a lot because I love Groundhog Day so much, and I love the time loop thing, and I haven't seen Edge of Tomorrow still, which I know is on me. I want to watch Edge of Tomorrow and Sinners. I meant to watch them before I talked about the rest of these movies because they all kind of go together. My favorite my favorite Best Picture Oscar movie of this year, not having seen Sinners yet, is Begonia. That's my favorite of those that I've seen. Megan says, good luck, have fun, don't die, left a lot of meat on the bone. I remember, Megan, you mentioning that like weeks ago, and I've been getting more and more ads about that I do want to see. David says, have you seen 7 Days in Hell or the cycling comedy they did? So funny. I haven't. Like, are those other Lonely Island productions, essentially? I really just need to watch more of those. I forget, in Palm Springs especially, because there is a little bit of earnestness, and there is just kind of like, the living the same day over and over brings a torture to it that you don't really think about until the second or third time I think you watch Groundhog Day. I was really impressed by Palm Springs. So I think David and Scott in the chat have both given yups and yeses. Really good. Really good. Scott says he just watched Hot Rod with his older kids, hits every time. I didn't see Hot Rod until college, and I'd like to watch Hot Rod again soon as well. So Palm Springs gets a real 2 thumbs up for, it's not gonna like make your head hurt watching it, but it's a little bit, there are layers to it, but it's a fun watch. Steven says, Time Loop February, Groundhog Day source code. Man, I saw source code. I might have saw source code in theaters. Was that good? Do you remember if that was good or not? I remember seeing it. Palm Springs, Happy Death Day, Edge of Tomorrow. I haven't seen Happy Death Day either. It seemed kind of spooky to me. Yeah, I could have texted my mom about this, I guess, but I need to make sure she watches the show. So we'll check out Palm Springs. And also looking forward to Toy Story 5. I saw a new trailer for Toy Story 5 was out. You know what's crazy? I never saw Toy Story 4. That also feels bad. I just need to do that. I've obviously seen the first 3 many times. Didn't see the one with the spork. Because I, kind of aged out of the Target demo. But I should really watch that. Ron says Begonia was great. I thought Eddington was awesome. Joaquin Phoenix is just chef's kiss. I like Joaquin Phoenix a lot. Have not seen Eddington yet. Not entirely sure, frankly, that I'm in the mood for COVID movies yet. I think that's my one little bit of slight, because eventually you just got to hit play on the thing. And sometimes you just sit there and go, do I want to watch? I've had that problem with Weapons also, where it's like everyone says Weapons is amazing. It's like, am I in a mood to watch a whole classroom full of kids disappear to either gun violence or some sort of supernatural force that's, I think, a metaphor for gun violence? I don't know if that's what I want to do on my Tuesday. Palm Springs is the answer to that. I do enjoy, okay, Happy Death Day. Alec and Steven say, not that scary. Okay, good to know. I had no idea. I loved Begonia. Thought about it a bunch since then. That is not a light watch, but sometimes you just need one that you can enjoy alongside. Palm Springs has that for me. The new Naked Gun with Liam Neeson. Watched that this month. We watched the original. Did we watch 2? We watched Airplane and Naked Gun Police Squad, I think, late last year, and then watched the new Naked Gun this year. Very, very good. Really, in love with its own source material in a very fun way. And then just filling a backlog of movies that I hadn't seen. The Producers and Blazing Saddles. I hadn't seen either of. And I only saw a little bit of Spaceballs a million years ago. So I think that's pretty high on the list now to visit as well. I love going through and filling some of those very important, load-bearing gaps in my cinema background. So I'm down to take movie recommendations and things to add to the list. I will scroll back through as you guys finish out the show in the comment section, because it's just me here. I am going to end the stream and then go through and I'll write down a couple of these movies you guys have mentioned, so I can pick it up and make sure I keep this process going. So thank you all for humoring me throughout the multimedia roundup. I didn't talk about Mac Miller. We're over an hour, folks. I'm here by myself today. I talked for an hour and 5 minutes. There's a new Mac Miller feature on the Thundercat song, She Knows Too Much. Super groovy. Thundercat's excellent. He's also on Dropout on I'm Actually this season. Hilarious. I don't have enough to go through the whole other extra topic of it, just to say I've never seen a artist's estate handle their posthumous releases better than Mac Miller. I've just and I think a couple of those projects were mostly done before he died. But like everyone who's involved in any of the Mac Miller posthumous releases just seemed to have such care and appreciation for the music and for the fact that they're working with one of the last available Mac Miller verses to put in a song. It's kept him feeling like a living artist in a way that doesn't come with the kind of money grab feeling of a lot of the posthumous stuff. I think Juice WRLD had like a really atrocious kind of spinoff that way. Just something I've been fascinated by, that Mac Miller has gotten to evolve as an artist after his death in a lot of ways, because people have managed that well around him. And that's, if you just need a groovy bass and the new Mac Miller verse, She Knows Too Much with Thundercat, really fun listen, and just kind of an interesting little thought exercise. As Ron says, the lack of milking his IP is nice to see. That's right. And Hugh Jazz, the 2-pack hologram didn't move you. You guys we're on the right wavelength here. Yeah, I don't need a Mac Miller hologram. I don't want to go see a hologram of Mac Miller in concert. I didn't get to see him, and that's something that I'm just, that's what happened. That's okay. But if there's stuff that he made that needs the love of collaborators and good producers and stuff to then still feel like a Mac Miller project, but it comes out after he's gone, in this case, long after he's gone, very artfully done, at least as far as I know. I hope I don't get sent a link afterwards. It's like, here's how Mac Miller's estate used AI to create his new feature with Thundercat. I just don't think anyone involved would do that, which is a nice thing to feel. So, okay. That's it, I think. Now the question, Josh, how long will it take for you to find the buttons that end the show? Fascinating question. Well, you see, it's quite easy. First, I click this, which puts the logo of the show up, and then I scroll down, and I look at the music, and I think that's not it, that's the intro. I think I need to make sure I hit unloop, because I looped it at the beginning, and then, this is so easy. All I have to do is say, bye, Mom! I did it. And we're still here. Nailed it. Ooh, Megan, good call. Thundercat team up with Remy Wolf is great. Have not heard that yet. Oh, and Scott, I have not listened to the new J. Cole album. I know, I'm sorry. Whoa! Seamus, no Severance talk. What do you mean no Severance? Is there a Severance talk? Okay, hold on. This music plays for a little while before I have to end it. What's the Severance news? Scott says check out the new A$AP Rocky album. Excellent. Ryan says, who even needs Tucker or Nick? The answer is me. I do. Steven says, who's your favorite Make Some Noise contestant? Oh, I don't know. I think this season's been excellent. Oh, that's a really good question, man. I gotta think about that. I'm not as big of a musical enthusiast, like in terms of theater, as I think most of the Dropout audience, but I love improv songs. So Who's the Line guy in a major way, obviously. So Alex says Ross. Like, Ross is stupendous at that exact thing. Okay, what's the Severance news? Seamus, you got like 10 seconds. Let me know what the Severance news is. Kanguru says, what'll happen earlier? GTA 6 released or the Jets reached the playoffs? I think we're getting GTA 6. I know that's a fool's errand, but I kind of believe it. Let's watch some Who's Line this offseason. That's a good idea. What's the Severance news? Apple has bought the rights outright. Do they already own the rights outright? Guys, I'm just going to sit here and listen to this music until I figure out what the Severance news is. There is a release date? There is a release date? No? Seamus, you're really letting me down, man. I'm still Googling. Summer or fall 2027. Oof! Production's expected to take place around April of this year. Okay, so maybe they're about to start production. Oh, I want it now. That'll be good, actually. That'll give me enough time to decide to rewatch the entire thing before season 3 comes out. Okay. Why are some of you still here? Okay, fine. Since you're still here, I'll tell you. At number 9, the Kansas City Chiefs 100% will select